8 in our exam readiness video series. I am Carla Yun, and today we will be looking at question 6 on dance literacy. Right, so for this one we're going to jump straight in. So what are those things that you need to know in order to answer this question? Right, so you need to know about the development of your dance major. So in other words, the history of your dance major. You also need to be able to talk about the characteristics, the principles, the styles of your particular dance major, as well as being able to compare it to another dance form that you've learnt about. You also need to be able to talk about the functions and the purpose of dance. So why do people dance, in other words, and how that is also linked to dance careers. And then lastly, you need to be able to talk about and identify the different categories of dance. So in other words, theatrical dance, cultural dance, social dance, and traditional dance. Right, so partly this question is a historical question. Yeah, you asked about historical facts, but a lot of it is also just common knowledge. So if we talk about history, if we look at that first point, why is it important for you to know about history or the history of your dance major? So remember, history affects development and it affects everything that comes after. So if you think about your set choreographer, when you study a choreographer and their work, you learn about the choreographer's biography as well, right? So you learn about their background, their training that they were exposed to. You learn about all of the influences that make them create the art that they do. So in other words, you're learning their history, essentially. So just as you're learning the history of a choreographer, when you're studying a particular choreographer, you're also having to learn the history of your dance major, because that history affects how it is developed. If you think about when your dance major started versus what your dance major is now in 2021, has there been evolution? Has it changed over the however many years? Yeah. So that is the reason why you're learning about the history of your dance major. Okay, so when we're talking about history, what sort of things are we looking for? So essentially we're looking for the W questions, right? And the H question, the W and the H questions. So we're looking at the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. So in relation to your dance major, who are the influential people that form part of your dance major? Were there certain people that were pioneers or certain people that took it forward? Secondly, what was happening at the time? So what was happening at the time that your dance major started or evolved? So remember, art is usually a reflection of what is happening in life in general at the time. Then we're also talking about when. When did your dance major start or begin? So we're talking about a period. Is it the 1800s? Is it the 1900s? Some dance forms are easier to trace back than others. So when about can you talk about in terms of the origins of your dance major? And then where, of course, the place. So where did your dance major start? Did it start in Africa? Did it start in Europe, in America? Where? What are the origins in terms of the place? And then we're looking at the why. Why did your dance major come about? So some dance forms started because of a revolt against something. Other dance forms just form part of life and culture in general, so it's sometimes difficult to identify the why in terms of why your dance major came about. And then the how is how it developed. So how has it developed from when it started up and until now in 2021? Right, then if we're looking at characteristics, principles, and styles of your dance major, for this one I want you to think back to your practical dance classes. So your dance form that you're learning, what are the basic principles that you see in your classwork? So when you're doing your classwork, when you're doing your solo, what are the main principles that those exercises or your solo or the movements use in your dance form in class? So a principle, what is a principle? A principle is just a basic rule about how you are using your body. So in dance, some principles are general to all dance forms and other principles are specific to a dance form. Yeah? So principles are just about the rules of how you use your body in your dance form that you are learning. So let's break that down a little bit, and I want you to think about your dance form as we go through this breakdown now, right? So in the dance form that you are learning, what does the stance or the posture or the alignment look like? So in terms of the body, how the body is held, what does that look like? Is it slightly bent knees and grounded? Is it knees fully stretched, torso erect? What does the stance, the posture and the alignment look like in your dance form that you are learning? What about the head? Yeah, how does your dance form use the head? Are there specific positions of the head? And then linked to the head is also the eye line. Yeah, most dance forms, when you're turning, you're using spotting. So that one would be common to all dance forms. But if you think about your dance form specifically, how does it use the head? Is the head just on top of the shoulders and balancing? Or are there times where the head is actually responsible for momentum? So think about the way the head is used in your particular dance form that you are learning. Then let's think about the arms and the hands. So how does your dance form use arms and hands? Are there again specific positions of the arms and the hands? Do the arms just hang loosely and respond to the pelvis moving perhaps? Does your dance form require you to have very articulate fingers? If you think about Indian dance, they need to have really articulate fingers in order to do those hand gestures. What about Spanish dance? Think about how articulate those wrists need to be and fingers in order to play those castanets. So your dance major, think about the use of the arms and the hands, yeah, and how those are used in your dance form that you're learning. What about the torso? How does your dance form use the torso? So is the torso in a held position, or is it freely movable and flexible? Is it vibrating? So think about the different ways in which the torso is used, or how the torso is used in your particular dance form that you are learning at school. And then what about the legs and the feet? Again, are there specific positions of the legs and the feet in your dance major? Does it make use of parallel positions, turned out position, turned in position? How are the legs and the feet used? What about articulation of the feet? We spoke about articulation of the hands earlier on. Yeah? Does your dance form require you to have really articulate feet? Most dance forms do. But some dance forms are danced barefoot, and other dance forms are actually danced in shoes. So how does that affect how articulate your feet are? Right, and then what about gravity? How does your dance form use gravity? Are the movements very grounded and heavy and earthy, or are they light and ethereal? So does your dance major defy gravity? Does it give into gravity? Does it do both? How does your dance form make use of gravity? So those are some of the things that you're looking for when you are talking about the principles and how they are used in your dance major. Alright, so we've unpacked principles now, but what about characteristics then? So characteristics are some of the other things that are going to make your dance or your dance form recognizable. So those would be things like the music or the accompaniment. What kind of music or accompaniment is used for your dance major? Then we're talking about things like costumes. So what sort of costumes or dress is used in your dance major? And we're not necessarily talking about your class uniform, your dance togs that you wear to class, because that's a particular uniform when you are rehearsing and practicing. I'm talking about in performance, yeah? So what sort of costumes or dress would be used in your dance form in performance? Then we're talking about things like setting. So where does your dance form happen? Is it a theatrical dance that happens on a stage? Is it a cultural dance that is in an outside setting? So think about the setting of your dance form. And then also we're looking at things like gender roles. So if you think about ballroom specifically, there's a very particular role that the man plays and a very particular role that the woman plays. So think about your dance major or your dance form. Are there particular gender roles in the dance that you are learning? And then remember, besides knowing the principles and the characteristics of your own dance form that you're learning or studying, you're also going to need to be able to compare it with another dance form. So remember, we unpacked this thing about comparison in video all the way back in video 2 when we spoke about verbs. We actually still use the 2 sticky notes. So when you are comparing, you're looking for similarities and you're looking for differences. So when you are doing a comparison here between dance forms, you've got to be able to look at the 2 dance forms, the one that you've studied and another one, and you've got to be able to identify some of their similarities and some of their differences. So what are the headings that you're going to look for in order to find those similarities and differences? So firstly, you're going to be looking at the movements. Obviously, we're talking about dance here. So what sorts of movements are used in your dance major or your dance form versus what sort of movements are used in the one that you are comparing it to. Then you're looking at music. So what sort of music and accompaniment is used in your dance form versus what kind of music or accompaniment is used in the one that you are comparing with. And then the same with costumes. The costumes used in your dance form versus the costume used in another dance form. Also the setting where it would be performed, as well as the gender roles. So all of the characteristics that we've spoken about earlier on, those are your points that you're going to use in order to compare the 2 dance forms. Okay, so then we're looking at the functions of dance. Guys, this section is very, very straightforward. So the functions of dance, in other words, why do people dance? Why do you dance? Think about why you are doing dance at school. Are you dancing because it is a form of expression for you? Are you dancing because it gives you a sense of belonging? Are you dancing because you prefer to express yourself through bodily movements rather than speaking? So reflect on and think about why it is that you are doing dance. So what are some of the reasons different people would dance, right? So some people are dancing because it is their career or because it's training leading into a career. So some people want to be dance performers, some people want to be a dance teacher, others want to be choreographers. So some of the reasons or the functions of dance is that it is an actual career, yeah? Other people are dancing because they want a platform to express themselves. So maybe they want to make particular statements through dance, and that is why they are dancing. Most people are dancing for fun. Yeah, most people are dancing for recreation, to have fun, to socialize. So if you think about this section on functions of dance, it's actually very, very straightforward. Think about all of the different reasons why people dance. And then having just spoken about dancing socially, it leads us very nicely into the last section, which is about the different categories in which we put dance into. So remember, when we're talking about categories of dance, we're talking about theatrical dance versus social dance, cultural dance, traditional dance. And when we're looking at those different categories or headings or umbrellas under which dance fits, you're looking at those same W questions in order to identify them. So if you think about the why, the where, the who, the when, and the what. So if you're looking at theatrical dance versus social, cultural, and traditional dance, why is it performed? What is the reason? So if you think about theatrical dance, mostly it is done to entertain a paying audience. The reason why cultural, social, and traditional dance is done is very, very different from that. So think about the why in terms of theatrical, cultural, social, and traditional dance. Then the way it is performed, those are also in sharp contrast. If you think about theatrical dance, mostly it is performed on a professional stage. Versus if you think about social, cultural, and traditional dance, those are performed in specific settings. Maybe it is an outside setting. What about the who? Who performs it? Are they trained professional dancers only performing the dance, the type of dance? Or does it involve all of the community to perform this dance? Then, what about when it is performed? Certain dances are ritualistic. So there are specific ceremonies or times of day or even particular people who are performing it. And then when we're looking at the what, we're looking at what are they wearing, as well as what is the music or the accompaniment. So I think it's also important to remember when we're talking about those categories, theatrical dance, social dance, cultural dance, traditional dance. I think that, what was once quite separate in terms of its little boxes is now becoming a little bit blurred. If we look at how technology has changed dance in the last 2 years only, it's not as easy to put dances in those little boxes anymore because styles are being fused and dance is evolving. Yeah? So take note of that when you're answering this question. Yes, you're talking about those particular boxes in which we put dance, but in reality, that's also changing and evolving at the moment. So if we do a little summary of this particular question, so part of it is historical. You need to know about the history of your dance major. And also with that, you need to know about the principles and characteristics of the dance form you are studying. But a lot of the concepts that are covered here is actually general knowledge. Go and ask a friend who doesn't do dance or a family member. Go and ask them the question, why do people dance? Just for fun, and see what answer they give you. Alright guys, that wraps up question 6 on dance literacy. As always, if you have any questions or comments, you can leave that down in the comments box below. And there are a few more videos in this series before we say goodbye to one another, but all the best. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!